Okay, so Ryan, did I show you what I picked up yesterday?
You show me like the world map of Dragon Ball Z. And,
no.
Yeah.
You can't really see it from here. It's sitting. Oh my god.
I see green.
Oh my god.
Oh, duels?
Do you see anything? You see the Master Chief helmet?
Oh yeah, that's pretty badass. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Is
there
that
it is.
like,
I
Do you
was
see what's
wondering
next
what
to
the
that
ginormous
helmet?
O the whole time.
yeah.
Do you see
Is
what's
that
next to that?
Is that like the one that came out for like Halo 2 or Halo 3, like the Super Special Edition pack?
Halo 3, yeah.
Yeah,
But do you
3.
see what's next to the Chief helmet?
I see a cube.
It's hard to make out. Oh, I see a big ass Brawly like further down there.
Oh
but I don't...
no, that cube next
Is
to the
that
helmet
Series
is
X?
that's the Halo Series X.
Oh, did you get one
nice
of those?
work.
I gave in to a scalper and I got it. Yeah.
God, they had one pop up that I saw on GameFly, and I almost thought about getting it. It was $1,000 with all the other crap that they kind of had with it, extra controllers, and
I'll get it just a second here. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing right
Oh
there.
wow.
Yeah, I've been looking at that one. I'm like, dude, that thing would be so slick to have.
I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw the Series X, I was like, well, I know it's powerful and it's gonna play well and all this and that, but it doesn't look that pretty. That is very pretty looking. That one.
It's probably the coolest looking console I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, my PlayStation, I got the Batman version where it's got Batman on there.
The PS4.
Yeah, when Arkham 4 came out.
Well, you see, I'm really excited because they just announced the PS5 faceplates that you can get from PlayStation.
I saw that, so there's finally color, which makes me happy because I kind of we've had too many years without color.
Let's see. Oh my god, I can't get my name. You can kind of see my PS5 over there.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Nice work.
I am. It's
You're
been
one
a
of the
good
few.
year
You're one of the few.
to have both.
Yeah.
You got one of the 7 PS5s in existence.
I know, right?
Yeah.
No, that one. Okay, so I paid a scalper for the Halo one, but Amazon is where I got the PS5. I got lucky one day.
Yeah. I when that day came, I had it on there, and then I didn't catch it in time, and then never found it yet.
For the PS5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got so lucky. I was gonna do the wait in line for 11 hours in the cold thing. But...
Yeah, no, it's like one of those ones. I would rather just try to time it right.
I remember Black Friday, of course, Black Monday, whatever it was, which one of them, was doing something like get it get a PS5 $100 off on Walmart. Like there's a fucking catch. Like first you got to sign up for our Walmart system, our Walmart Prime thing, and then you could do it only at this time. And then go fuck yourself. No, that not happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of get that. I mean, that's just
I get it.
That's how they're going to get more people into their Walmart Plus program, wherever the heck it is. It's one of those things. But yeah, no, those it's still tough to just kind of. I just kind of was thinking, by this point we're going to be able to find these things out in the wild, right? And it's like, no, they're still not.
It's going to be years until you can just see one sitting in a store somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I've ran across a Series S, but then it's like, who the fuck wants a Series S?
I went to Target a couple days ago, and there was 5 of them in the container.
The thing with
It's
the
like
Series
the sad puppy that's no one's picking up.
I mean, probably, I'll say this. If I was 20 years old when you barely have any money and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I could see myself probably getting the Series S. When it's that's all you really, you're not going to have enough money for the Series X. I could see that. But beyond that, though, it's kind of one of those ones it feels just who's getting the Series S? I feel like it's either that or if that's the one that a kid asked for an Xbox, and then that's what the
and then the grandma gets the Series S. Yeah,
that's the only thing I can kind of think of. Or there's a guy who's just so rich that he has everything, and the Series S is the system he has in his guest room or something like that. That's the other one I feel what it would be.
He has the Switch and the Switch OLED just for no reason.
Yep. Okay. Hey, I know that guy. But that's what I sort of feel those kind of extra ones are. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with the disk drive version of the PS4 that's missing it, which I feel that one sort of just disappeared. I don't hear people ever bringing that version up anymore, the $400 one. But that one almost I guess if you never were going to buy a single physical game, that would be fine, or if you just bought into PlayStation.
Yeah.
Because I don't think because you can't put PS4 discs into the PS5, right?
You can.
Oh, you can? Okay, never mind. That changes everything. Somebody told me you couldn't. I was like, what? That's fucking silly.
You can. And what's cool is that you can actually transfer all of your PS4 save data over.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
That's nice.
But what I did is
people's
just put it all on
loopholes.
external hard drive, and I just plugged it into the external hard drive and just play the games off of there.
Well, that's even easier. That's like my PS4's got like 6 terabytes of data, like a massive beast. And the worst part is I maxed that out. Like, only a couple of months ago, I had to go in there and start deleting stuff.
I'm just the reason I haven't played any new PS4 games. Like me, I guess you could say new PS4 games. Reason I haven't played any of the Resident Evil remakes or Final Fantasy VII remake or any other remakes that keep on coming out.
Oh, Resident Evil 2 remake is a masterpiece. It's amazing.
And then 3's even better. Yeah, I love the hell out of 3. 2's not perfect, but 3 was pure amazing.
That was a you hate it or you love it kind of game.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
I felt that one to me tapped like what I generally liked a lot in Resident Evil and so on. And even though it is kind of like the streamlined version of the 3 story, like that game was so much fun to play over and over and over again.
Now, a couple things I want to bring up real quick. So first thing is this Halo Series X. I plan on taking it. So there's a convention that happens here once a year, actually twice a year. SAC Anime.
Mm-hmm.
It's the big convention here in Sacramento. That's where I am. And
yeah, I've been to SAC Anime a couple times.
You been to here?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Where are you at?
I'm in Yosemite. I'm in Twain Harte.
Oh, okay. And so, Steve Downs is coming this year.
Oh yeah.
So I was gonna get Steve Downs to autograph the Series X. What do you think?
That'd be cool. The only thing is, I would be very afraid to be walking in there with a Series X, especially the Halo version, because somebody could just come up from behind you and just shank you and drag you off behind the back of like a booth there and so on. And next thing you know, because we live in dark times where like when these systems aren't there, people are gonna get desperate real quick. That'd be scared of.
Can you describe what the assailant looked like, though? It looked like the guy from One Piece.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're never going to catch him.
He was a guy wearing wings.
He was able to have the flaily arms and everything. That was I didn't have enough time to ask him.
The rubber hose shit.
Yeah.
Like every single person that goes there wears wing. Like does every anime character have wings for some reason? It just seems to be that's the case.
Yeah. Back in my day, my animes didn't have wings. Well, I mean, Sephiroth had one wing at one point, but
And we were grateful, goddammit.
And the second thing is, my son, who I love to death, of course, but a couple of weeks ago, him and I were getting some Christmas decorations up. I took my eye off of him for 2 seconds, and he annihilated that 77-inch OLED right there.
Oh God!
And not that exact one. That's the new one that I got replaced. But the old one, he just threw a toy at it, and that was it. The panel was out.
And then you're like, never again.
So now, like anytime
now
he
he's in
comes
military
in this room,
school.
At 4.
Start him early.
Yeah, exactly.
Son, you will become Master Chief now.
You'll be just like a Metal Gear Solid. You're gonna become a child soldier.
So what is it? So what's the topic you guys want to cover tonight?
Well, you know what? Since we're just saying it, we'll just bust in like this. This is just how we're gonna go. We're just gonna go freestyle into this. And you know what? Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Rain Dunnigan, and our special guest today, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yep, Chris Harvey. I have the podcast called Dragon Ball and Chain over on, pretty much everything. So, yeah, that's what I have.
And I was on your show. You actually were on my other show, Octorok Talk. We have a mutual friend, James Artville. And
by the way, big Nintendo fan. He doesn't have any other console. Every time a new console comes out, he's got to go straight to Nintendo. Just putting that out there.
Hey, well, yeah. I believe I'm Nintendo first, but I'm after that I followed up with Xbox, Sega, PlayStation, PC, and so on.
Yeah, I'm very much Nintendo first. I don't try to be. It just kind of happens that way. Just because I was looking at all the new games I bought recently, I'm like, oh well, I haven't bought a PS4 game in I don't know how long. It's all been Switch lately. But anyway, yeah. So you came on to our show, Octorok Talk, where we just talked about Smash Brothers for a while, and then like maybe a month or two later, I went on to Dragon Ball and Chain, and we talked about Cowboy Bebop, the original Cowboy Bebop, and yeah, and I was listening to a couple episodes of your show before, and the earlier episodes, it was just like you watch Dragon Ball with your wife, and it's kind of getting her reaction.
That didn't last long. she gave up, and she's like, I just can't. I can't. I'm like, okay, fine. So it didn't last, but it was fun while it lasted, and most of her reactions were like, kids watched this because of how risque a lot of the jokes were and a lot of the content was, like her flashing Master Roshi and stuff. So I think she was shocked by how like Japanese kids have a different level of what's considered okay.
Well, it's also like when you think about like, because Dragon Ball Z in particular, it was just really violent. A lot of like the crude sex jokes and all that kind of stuff is kind of stuff that you could probably easily edit around, or wasn't really that prolific in Dragon Ball Z. But in Dragon Ball, it's like, oh yeah, we're showing you all the balls in Dragon Ball, you know? And then it does this thing where it kind of like, even when it came on to like Toonami, there are still some things that were very hard to edit around. Like, I know what the fuck's going on here.
Like
you
they
know?
put like a cartoon fish in front of Goku's junk, like as he's jumping in the air.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, my favorite one, I think it's on like some of the early movies, is that they would just have like the leaf over it.
They did.
Like it looked like an old like Bible like cartoon.
The one that really stands out to me that I really remember is where it was the episode when it was back when Yamcha was still like a villain for a minute, and he was trying to sneak in there to steal the Dragon Balls, and they were camping out, and Bulma just got out of the shower, and she had like a sheet over her, and then like he's like, but the Dragon Balls are under here. He rips the sheet off, and you hear him scream, and then he's like, da 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 boobs, and you know he's walking out of the RV, and his eyes are sticking out, but the pupils are nipples. I'm just like, I'm surprised they did. I'm surprised someone didn't go in there with like the little paint bucket tool and just make that black, you know. But he's like, no, they weren't hiding it at all.
No, yeah.
Now, have you guys heard of the Rock the Dragon edition DVD set?
Yes,
Spencer knows
because
all about
that's the one that's the original version of Dragon Ball. The one that if you would have watched Dragon Ball Z back in 1997, this was the version you were watching.
This is the one where it was like a Canadian team, right?
Yeah. Oh, and you got the set. See, I've always wanted to have that actual version of it just for like nostalgia's sake.
Now, not only do I have it autographed by the original Goku.
Oh my gosh, there you go. We're getting like podcast show and tell.
Ian, I know. I'm sorry.
Well, I just feel like just for the fact that just to explain something like what's going on, I was almost like, what's he showing? I just hear stuff.
Yeah. So this is Ian Corlett, the original Goku from the Ocean dub. And then on the reverse, I had Brian Drummond, the original Vegeta, sign it too.
Oh, that's pretty badass.
Now that's the Vegeta that sounded a little bit more Weasley when he first came out, like, well, Nappa. Like, well, then later he went to like, I am the Prince of All Saiyan. You know, that's the first Vegeta, right?
Yes, and the reason I bring this up is because what's funny about this set, if you go in, talking about the censorship, they actually talk about it in here.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have a whole section. Well, yeah, they have the lyrics to the song. That's pretty funny.
Dragon, rock the dragon.
Yeah.
Hey, that's my cell phone
Here it is.
ringtone.
Do that at karaoke.
So they got the whole page dedicated to all the censorship and the
Nice.
changing the names of things to make it okay for American kids.
Hiffle instead of hell. Yeah.
Yep.
Even then, you could still tell what the shirt was.
Instead of saying "I'm gonna kill you," they would say, "Do you remember?
I'm gonna destroy you.
I'm gonna send you to the next dimension."
Oh yeah, blast to the next dimension.
Well, it's like, I remember watching Gundam Wing, which was the show all about, I mean, aside from giant robots, it was about political divisions, and it was surprisingly got more political than you'd assume a show on Toonami at 4 o'clock in the afternoon would be. And I remember, like, all this death, all this murder. The first episode, you have, like, Hero killing a bunch of soldiers and laughing about it. And then, like, he goes up to Renoa, or whatever, or I forgot, Renea, whatever her name is, and says, like, I will destroy you. And it's just like, wait, did they edit out I will kill you? Like, well, yeah, we don't want kids in the playground saying I will kill you.
Yeah,
So.
I recently rewatched the Hulu stream of it, and he does say kill.
Yeah, he does. Well, you know what's the funny thing, though? Destroy is almost even a worse word if you really kind of break it down. Like, that's like going beyond just killing. Like, killing's like, oh, okay, I'm going to silently stab you in the dark. Destroy you is like, I'm going to annihilate you with, like, a nuclear weapon almost feeling. You know, so it's like I think
I'm gonna obliterate your corpse, and you're just gonna be ashes.
I just
He
think
is
it's kind
the
of
rich
funny
kid in class. Maybe he has those means.
that you know, the way that people kind of say, like, well, this word is like a lighter version of this word, but like at the end of the day, it all means the same thing. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Anime censorship is always just so funny,
no,
especially when
I
it's
could,
full.
I could, if you guys wanted, I could do a whole episode of just talking about like the home releases of DBZ, because it's so ridiculous how many editions they've come out with since 1997 or 6.
Yeah, since like the Viz versions, the original ones.
Oh no, I'm talking about no, Viz never came out with a DVD. I mean like the.
Well, I guess it would have been a DVD. I remember like there was like VHSs though that they had. Like,
oh yeah,
they're like the proto before Cartoon Network had them.
Again,
And you put them all together and make a
a
scene of them fighting or something. Always a clip.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
It's hard to see.
Oh, yeah, I remember those where you put them all together and they make, like, usually it would be by the arc. So, you know.
It's kind of hard to see there, but. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I got a whole cabinet full of. So, yeah, there was. Oh my God, like I said, I could have a whole. You can do a whole show just on DVD or VHS and DVDs of Dragon Ball, but.
Now, is that mostly Funimation and one or two other companies constantly trying to release their own versions of it? Or is that, like, Funimation just, like, really cashing in and just, like, here is the abridged, here's this version, here's that version.
Funimation has always
Kai,
had... Funimation has always had, like, the distribution rights, I believe. But they weren't the ones who dubbed it. It wasn't until 1999 that they eventually bought the rights to dub it and then do their own in-house recording from there on out. They just distributed the home video stuff and put it on TV, but then and then had an Ocean Group in Canada do all the dubbing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so. I almost want to say that the Rock the Dragon kind of version, the original one, that in Europe, those voice actors continued doing it much longer than in the U.S.
Yeah, doesn't Canada have the Ocean dub continue after it switched?
Yeah, because I heard somebody, I remember because when that DVD set came out, someone's all like, oh, I hope they release the rest of them, because over here in England, like, they did the entire run with these voice actors. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's interesting.
It's very off-putting, or not off-putting. It's very strange when you hear, like, grown, adult Vegeta is still having that voice, like well into the Majin Buu arc. And you're like, whoa, and it's really weird.
Well, that just kind of goes back to like old like cartoon style of dubbing, and so on. I feel like that's what it kind of comes from. It's almost like nothing different than like almost like a He-Man type like background villain or something like that from like the 80s.
Yeah, like Skeletor.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. When I first heard the first time I saw Dragon Ball Z, without knowing very little about it, and I heard Vegeta, I'm like, oh, the kid? I assumed he was like just a snooty little kid the whole time, and then like as it went on, I'm like, oh wait, no, that dude's amazing, because by the time you get to, I want to say that at least the dub we heard over here on Toonami, by the time you got to like Frieza Saga, by then his voice deepened. At least that's how I remember it. But it's been a while since I watched the Saiyan Saga.
So, yeah, and so when Funimation took over, they were instructed to copy the Ocean Group's voices as close as they could, so that it wouldn't be too jarring for the kids watching. So at first, Chris Sabat did his best Brian Drummond impression at first. And then as the show went on, he got comfortable in his voice as Vegeta from there on out that we're used to. But yeah, when it first started, they were told to stick to those original voices as long as they could, and then once the kids got used to those new voices, it's like, okay, let's start doing our own thing.
Well, it's like there was
makes
that good
sense.
like 6-month gap because I remember because that was always how it was. Every season you would get on like
It was a year.
Toonami. Yeah, they were super long because they would just go right back to like, oh, we're just gonna replay those same like 30 episodes you just saw and be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, they only had from what was it episode? What was it? What's the final one? So they did. See, there's. You guys watch Geekdom 101?
No, I have no idea what that
No.
is.
Oh, you are missing out. Okay, so you got. I know you. How big of Dragon Ball fans are like?
I'm
Just to get
extremely into Dragon Ball. That's like that literally is like one of those like I mean Speed Racer's like my I guess you would say my intro to like anime obsession, but Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, Pokemon, Gundam was kind of like that next level.
Dragon Ball
Okay,
Z is also probably one of my favorite animes. Now, if I had to be 100% honest, I don't know a lot of the like what Akira Toriyama was thinking when he made this or made that, or who it switched hands with. But I remember the arcs pretty well.
Well, if you go, okay, well, so there are those guys on YouTube. The main one being Geekdom 101. He is the guy who's pretty much the know-all of everything. If you like, and he has all these topics on there about animation supervisors, and he talks about every single release, home release. He talks about. Oh, hang on, give me just a second.
So he got a bunch of different stuff that like he's got on there and all the subjects and so on. It's kind of
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. So he. Sorry, I was just making sure. I hear a lot of banging in my second floor, so I'm just making sure that no one's getting shot up or anything up there. Okay. So anyway, yeah. So I mean, when I talk about okay. So yeah. Anyway, when if you want to ever know a lot about the absolute deepest knowledge of Dragon Ball, he's the guy to go to. And what's cool is that he actually will never release any public any information about like upcoming content from Dragon Ball unless it's 100% confirmed. And he's usually the very first guy to release any of that stuff, which is pretty cool.
That's
because
cool.
he actually has
now.
like,
He's got a lot of stuff going on with it.
and he has he knows people that work over there at the animation studio, and he doesn't like divulge who it is because he doesn't want to ruin that person's career. But that's usually how he gets that stuff out first, is because he knows the people over there. So
Oh, interesting. That's always kind of cool stuff to check out.
Not gonna
this
lie,
guy
I still-
and he knows his shit, and yeah, and he brings on all the voice actors and has little podcasts with them and talks to them and stuff, which is pretty cool.
I have to check that out. Yeah.
You got to check him out.
I'm behind because I was watching Super and then life got in the way, and I picked up right where I probably stopped right when like Goku started training with Vegeta with Beerus, and they were trying to make the bed while he's sleeping. Like that's probably where I left off on. I was really
in
enjoying
Super?
it.
Really?
Yeah, in Super. Yeah.
So
I
you
gotta
have no
finish it.
idea what like Ultra Instinct is or anything like that?
I know that eventually it's one of those things where I remember seeing, because I know that the first two seasons are essentially, or first two arcs are essentially the longer versions of the last two of the Resurrection F and Battle of Gods. So I kind of have an idea of where it's all heading, but at the same time, I'm like, even when I went to go see Resurrection F in theaters, I was like, oh, his hair turns blue now? Okay. Because that's just something kind of bypassed. And he turns Super
they
Saiyan
kind of
God.
bypass it in the show too, so it's fine.
Oh, look at this. Yeah. I think that's what happens. We just eventually run out of hair color. Like, all right, well, I mean, so when I see like a Goku figure and he just normal black hair, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have no problem with like pink-haired Goku or like, blue-haired Goku. But when I just see normal black-haired Goku, I'm like, I miss that. I miss the simplicity.
Well, that's what I feel like. I always gravitate back towards those ones. It's like whenever there's like a Dragon Ball Z video game and it's like, oh, cool, I can choose the non-Super Saiyan version. Okay, that's what I'm going with.
Speaking on this, I just saw something and Chris, I'm sure you're already aware of it. There's that Dragon Ball survival horror game to a certain extent where you're trying to stay away, not horror game, but it's a survival game where you're trying to stay away from Cell. I think it's Dragon Ball Busters or something like that. It's like it's this game where you could play as like three or four different people at once, and it's like Bulma from Dragon Ball, Oolong, and maybe there's one or two other characters, and basically Cell is going on a rampage, and you're just basically trying to get away and try and distract him, and then get like there's like little like gimmicks like, oh, there's like a Saiyan pod here. If I run into the Saiyan pod, and it'll transport me over to the other side of the map before Cell has a chance to get to me. That kind of thing.
Yeah, because I think it's designed sort of like the Friday the 13th or the Predator game, Dead by Daylight, like all those kind of styles. I think that's what's sort of going with in that kind of, like something where it's like 4 versus 1 type gameplay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's about Dragon Ball: The Breakers.
Yes.
Breakers. Yeah.
I have not seen this.
Oh, you haven't?
Yeah.
Oh
no,
so
yeah.
Somebody playing a Cell then? I didn't know somebody was actually playing a Cell.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that's what it's going with, is that exact same style. Because, that's how those other ones were. It's like one person plays as Jason, the other person plays as, like, the camp counselors,
Okay, that makes
That's
more
very
sense.
cool, very different. I like it.
Yeah, because they got an Evil Dead one coming out that's like sort of like in that style, where one person's pretty much the Evil Dead, and then everybody else is like Ash, the 2 characters from like the new TV series, and there's like somebody else in there too. I can't remember who else, but
Wow.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I mean, the announcement trailer was a CG trailer, but so they haven't shown any gameplay or anything. It's more of just like an announcement, like, "Hey, we're making it."
yeah.
But that looks cool. Now, what were there any topics you guys wanted to cover? Because I keep making us go into the Dragon Ball realm. So I'm
It was just kind of a free flow
Brian was like,
conversation.
"We're just going to do a casual free flow." That was all I was told.
Okay.
I was like, "That's what we're going into. Let's do it."
Yeah,
Alright,
I figured
so-
you talk about probably anime. I know that you'd have a chance to share your I know you'd have a chance to share your opinions on the Cowboy Bebop Netflix show, or if you want to talk about any other kind of anime stuff.
The Netflix show got canceled for its 2nd season, so there goes that.
There's already petitions getting going again.
Here,
though.
I mean, my thoughts are basically a poop emoji. That's basically what it comes down to. So
when it comes down to it, because we did a whole like 2-hour episode of it, so I won't go into detail. But it was like I enjoyed it, but at the same time, like it wasn't Cowboy Bebop to me. It
I
was just,
really wanted to
yeah.
like it. I wasn't like through the roof hyped. Like, oh my god, I've been waiting my whole life for this. I was like, okay, well, I'm a jaded 33-year-old guy. I've seen like there's a great quote. Did any of you watch like Red Letter Media at all?
No.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. My favorite quote from them is they say one of the guys asks the other, he says, what's it like to live long enough to watch all your favorite franchises get shit on?
Well, I mean,
And he goes,
depending.
he's like, no, it's fun.
Yeah, well, because I'll say it's like the Cowboy Bebop one. It's like, all in all, it's not bad. It's still enjoyable. Like, I mean, it's just not like perfect, but it's not, it's one of the ones I felt like they probably could have got it dialed in by about the 2nd season. That's how a lot of times those TV shows are. It's like it takes a moment.
I feel like if they had a 2nd season, you're right, Spencer. I think they probably would have ironed out a lot of things people were complaining about, and maybe between there. Like Ed, like why is Ed suddenly so like less Ed and wacky? Like, oh well, Ed was on some shit that day. Don't worry, this is the new Ed.
You know the mushroom episode? Well, Ed got a hold of all those mushrooms at once.
I mean, there's even things in the show that you could see the people making it really liked Cowboy Bebop, but it was probably a clash of people trying to homage it, trying to make it be recognizable enough, but at the same time not trying to go too far, but at the same time not really being able to top the original. And I even said this on the episode we did, and Chris, hopefully this doesn't sound as blasphemous to you. Now keep in mind, like I'm just using this as a rough example. I don't want it.
I'll let you know if I get triggered. I'll let you know.
Okay. I don't want it, I don't need it, but let's just say they wanted to take another stab at Dragon Ball, a live-action Dragon Ball. Not saying it needs to happen, but if you did, you could do it just because there's so much more Dragon Ball out there. You can mix and match, rearrange things, take things from the movies and mix them into the actual story. So, like Cooler, if you're doing Frieza, and throw him in there, mix it up a bit. Now... Bebop only has like 26 episodes in one movie, so there's not as much room to rearrange and move things around. So any change feels blasphemous almost.
Yeah.
It's not really blasphemous. It's just like, if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna make changes, if you're gonna add things, if you're gonna whatever you do, just make it good. That's all that people care about. Like, look how many famous franchises have like AAA movies that are at the top of the the top 10 IMDb of all time, like Dark Knight, It's not a direct frame by frame or panel by panel recreation of the comic books. They just took like a couple of sources here and there, and they made sure that it was good. And it's like, if they have done that with Cowboy Bebop, I feel like people wouldn't be complaining.
I guess the thing with that, though, is because Batman's been around for 80 years, so there's enough things to mix and match and change around. And like, oh, I get it. You can't get everything in there. Where Bebop, even if you don't get everything in there, like any kind of straying away from material, like if you put in like too many new characters, like, well, I'm not here for that. I'm here for Vicious. I'm here for Spike. I'm here for Faye, Jet, But then after seeing Vicious in this, like maybe a little less Vicious, But yeah.
Yeah, it's like it almost kind of works that way. The only thing I just kind of hope is that sometimes there might be that thing where like, oh, the Cowboy Bebop didn't do good. People just don't want anime movies, I guess, then, or anime TV shows. Let's stop doing more of those. That's always the fear that kind of happens, is because people like, I mean, that happened with like the video game movies, is like once people kind of didn't like a certain few of them, they're like, how about we just don't do these ever again? It's like, whoa, that's not what they want. You got to keep working at it. Like sometimes the bigger, like sometimes it's always like those, like you're still working through the baby steps, and it feels like at this point we should be at that point where we don't need to kind of work through that anymore. I felt like we've been working through that for like the last 30 years, but there still always seems to be a little bit of like a rough patch that kind of gets worked through, but at certain points you'll get things that turn out more dialed in. I mean, it's like that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 trailer. That looks pretty darn dialed in getting there. You know what I mean?
That looks like the movie I wanted the first time around.
Yeah, so it goes to show that, like, you keep kind of going at it, it's only going to get better.
Not always, but
oh yeah,
ideally,
some things can run a course, but
like the Resident Evil movies change their plot point like every like movie. It's suddenly different. Like, okay, so Raccoon City was all a farce. None of it ever happened. Oh, actually, it did happen because end of the world. It's all like, why'd you guys make that big plot point about like it was covered up if the end of the world ended up happening anyway? Oh, by the way, that thing she can get controlled by, she can just shake it off. Not a big deal.
Fixes it and so on. But yeah, it's just like the thing is just like, you just got to give it another go. Like, because that's the thing where science always kind of bothers me, where people go like, they'll look at something like that comes out like a new version or a remake of a movie or something like that, and then they start doing the stupid shit where they're like, that ruined my childhood or something. It's like, stop thinking about it. It never affects the original one. Even if there's another version out there that the original one's still identical that it always was. And realistically, as time goes on, a lot of times those ones that are just kind of like the okay versions kind of, they just kind of get swept under the rug, and, the people that like them, they're there and so on, but it's not like it stands out and it overshadows it and, like, you never see it again. You know what I mean? It's like, I'll even use, it's like something like there's, like, the Point Break remake. I know this goes back a handful of years, but it's not like that movie has, like, replaced the original one. No, that movie kind of came and went, and the original one's the one that stands the test of time. It's the same thing with, like, Red Dawn. You know what I mean? There was there's a remake, and it was different. It was kind of interesting and so on like that, but the original one's the one that stands out there, and that's the one that's always going to be the classic.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, like I said, like you can make changes. You can take things out, add things in, change them, whatever you want to do. But what people will always remember is if the movie was good or not, or the show was good or not. And I think that should be the primary focus. And I think I'm not sure if you guys ever watched the pitch meeting videos on YouTube. But when the guy down there did the Cats pitch meeting, it was so funny. What he said was, which is basically what Hollywood, this is how they run their business, which is he goes, Cats is, really? Should we make a movie of Cats? And he's like, the musical made $6 billion. Okay, well, we have to try at least.
there's some cash being made right there. And this is always, I think, kind of sometimes the downfall when it gets to like sometimes certain movies and even TV shows made. It's when you get the committee involved. That can be the kind of the problem. It's why lots of times I always feel like why I like a comic and a manga version more than like some of those other ones, because you generally just have a solo one, maybe a couple, maybe there's a team, but you get sort of the solo vision, and there's nobody in there to be like, hey, how about you put one of these characters? Or wait, why don't you do this or something like this? I mean, it depends like what it is, but certain things.
There are exceptions though. Sorry, I didn't mean to. There are some exceptions.
Yeah.
Where when you have the singular vision of a single person writing the script, it doesn't always work out. Prime example of that would be Last Jedi. That was solely the brain of Rian Johnson, and it didn't work out. So it's like,
Well,
Yes,
I'm pretty
the
sure there's
committee-
still a committee in there that was over his shoulder the whole time. Like, it's not, if he was given like almost like that pure, like, hey, you go out, you are, dictator of this thing, I think it actually might have been even different. I think there was still the leaning over, here, write this in there. Yeah, put this in here. Change this. Take that out.
You got to put the porgs in there. We got to sell toys. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
there's always going to be that overlooming kind of producer, and I think that's always like what I always liked about like when it comes to live action movies in Japan, at least back in the day, I don't know how it is nowadays, but they used to have a thing that like once they pick a director and something like that, that's who they've chosen. They don't interfere anymore because that's how they chose it out, and it's like that makes a lot more sense to me. Now, granted, I think when it does come to a director, if the director starts getting crazy and starts going way over budget and is just not, delivering on time and so on, I get there has to be at some point you got to be like, yo, you got to fix this here. Like you were just blowing money like nobody's business, but I always feel if a director is like, if they're doing their thing, they're on budget, they're on time, don't mess with them. Just let them get that out there.
That is one thing Japan always gets my respect for is, they always put their heart and soul into their faith in the creator of the content, and there's so much respect for the creator over there. Like if Akira Toriyama says it, like that's it, okay, well he's the man.
Mm-hmm.
He says it's fine, then it's fine. Sensei said so, or Akira Sama is the man, and it's like I wish there was more. I wish there was more of that here, where it's like, well, he's the creator. Maybe we should listen to him.
On that note, I'd like to hear Hideaki Anno, the guy who made Evangelion, in a pitch, just to know how he got how much goodwill that guy has to have. Like, okay, so the last half of the movie, it's just the kid doesn't even save the world. He fucks up. He's screaming like a bitch inside the robot the whole time, and a giant naked lady who's his mom / a clone of his mom / girlfriend, whatever, /
sister,
pops up, that head pops off, all this, like we're going to be playing some kind of like what sounds like a 70s pop song in the background, just like, and this is the movie you want to make? Fuck yeah, it's the movie I want to make. And I'm going to come back to this shit in 10 years.
It's definitely the movie I want to make.
It helps my depression. You don't want me to be depressed, do you? Like, no, we don't want you to be depressed. Good, let's make this fucking
I gotta admit, I don't know a single thing about Evangelion. All I know is the thing I saw that was trending for a little bit, where the guy had masturbated over the girl in the hospital.
Yeah, that's that's the very beginning of like. So I won't yap your off about all of it.
But then you saw like the reactions of the fans being like, "Oh my god!" And I was laughing so hard.
Well, it's like, so what happens there is like the show happens and the end of the world happens in the show, but you don't see it. You see the aftermath, and basically they're in heaven or kind of in the same mind together, some weird crazy shit like that. And then people are like, what the fuck? And then they made the movie, which shows how the end of the world happened. And then the opening scene is like, he jerks off over a comatose girl. And then like people are like, well, what the fuck? That before, like, all right, now on to the robot battle, right?
Like, you're like, oh my god, what the hell? I'm on board.
Yeah.
Why do I like this so much? Why do I identify with this character so much? Like, let's move a seat over.
Yeah, no, Evangelion, it's a fun one. I kind of got into it's like I knew about it forever, but I really got into it kind of a little bit later when Ryan wanted to watch. We watched the original series, and then we watched those the 4 modern movies and so on like that. Because before that, I only saw bits and pieces like back in the old days. And it's definitely a very interesting and different one, has some really cool moments and so on. And I would say it's worth definitely checking out. I know it's not, it's definitely a show, it's not for everybody, because certain people just can't get into it, but I think it's worth giving it a try for sure.
Okay. Yeah,
It's
I
definitely
tried.
a dude's vision.
Yeah, I tried another example of where like I really wanted to like it, but I was just like, it was okay. It was like the new Dune movie, and I'm like, it was fine. The visuals are cool, but I don't know. I just couldn't get into the world, I guess.
Yeah, well, because me and Ryan, I think we talked about this on like probably the last podcast, but like it's like Dune to me was always Dune 2000, the RTS game from Command and Conquer back in the day. Like, and that's what I always think. That's like my version of kind of Doom, I guess, or Dune. I said Doom, whatever. But and that's what it always kind of was. And then it's like, the new movie was very interesting for kind of what it is and so on, but it's also one of those movies too where people have already kind of like taken those elements and put them into other movies throughout time. It's kind of the same way that Starship Troopers was, where that movie got kind of aped through forever, and then finally when it came out, though the Starship Troopers movie is amazing, but sometimes there's those things where it's like you kind of like by this time they finally kind of get going, it kind of almost feels a little bit kind of old fashioned, not in a bad way, but like, and I think that's what kind of made it kind of neat, was it felt like you're watching an old school like sci-fi movie where it's going to have a big 70s build up, and it's not going to be super action packed, but it's going to be kind of slowly burning along and so on like that. But yeah, no, it's one of those ones like I enjoyed it, but it's like I guess I'm not nearly as like invested as say like I don't know, like The Matrix or something like that.
You see, like, when you brought up Starship Troopers, that was another perfect example of where, as I was saying, like, you can have all that original content in there, all the inspiration from the original content, but make your own unique vision of it. And I think that's what was cool about the Starship Troopers, where I've actually read, or I didn't read, but I listened to the audiobook of the original book, and it is 100% different from the movie. Yeah. And it's like he basically, he took the blueprint of the movie and he said, I'm just going to do my own shit with it. And I think that's what made it. I think if people who are making these anime adaptations can do that, like just take the blueprint of the story and the characters and make your own cool, unique vision. I think that's what a lot of these adaptations are missing, is a vision, like having a clear vision instead of being like, oh, we got to make these people happy and make these people happy and make these people happy. Like, the more people you try, you can't please everybody. So instead of pleasing everybody, like just have a single vision that will please as many people as you can, but not like not trying to make the world,
yeah, well,
like your movie.
Well, sometimes it's a problem. This kind of goes. This is an issue nowadays. It goes with both video games, movies, TV shows, whatever. But it's where they're trying to get like a broader audience than they really have. It's like no. You got a niche audience that like they will just shoot for those. You know what I mean? You don't have to go so broad and try to capture people that never are going to touch your stuff. Video games have a problem of doing that, where you'll see it when like sometimes like a character that kind of comes up, you go like, let's be honest, is this person really playing it? How about you just focus on the demographic that you have? That's who's going to buy it. If you're trying to sell it to like maybe the 0.0005%, I feel like, what are you doing? I mean, like that's not even going to make you your money. Like, what are you shooting for here?
Well, there's also that thing of go ahead.
Go ahead.
There's also that thing of like kind of just people doing it just for the sake of doing it, because like speaking on like I like this director, but I didn't like the movie that much, really. Like there's the Death Note movie that came out like a couple years back, which that movie is like was for a while was the punching bag of Netflix, you know what I mean? Like, or the Netflix punching bag, more or less, just because it was so. William Dafoe is Ryuk, perfect. Everything else, I mean, the guy that played L was decent. Well, he was good, but he didn't come across as L to me. You know what I mean? And it's not because they changed his race or anything. It's just because by the end of the movie, he's chasing him down with a gun. So it's like L is chasing someone down with a gun and getting angry and emotional. Okay, whatever, but that was just a case of like, okay, well, maybe we can just try to We'll just do the live action version, and we'll make it simplified. We'll get the you don't understand the whole thing of it. It was like a cat and mouse thing, and they don't even go through that whole cat and mouse thing in it. It all just felt like for the sake of throwing the name on there, and that never really pans out when it just comes. Like, I'm wondering what this One Piece thing is going to be for Netflix. I never watched One Piece, but I know it's like basically just as big as Dragon Ball by now.
I've read the first. Yeah, I've read the first half of the manga, and it is so out there to the point where I'm gonna watch it with enjoyment, ironically, at this point. I'm just gonna be like, I can't wait to see how bad, not really how bad, but just how not like, I'm trying to put it into words, like how like general audiences are not gonna like understand what the hell's going on.
It is kind of I just saw the stills they have. They just showed a couple of the actors and they showed the script or whatever and the logo. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think. I'll probably check out the first episode. I probably want to I'm actually recently I've been kind of wanting to get back into anime because there's the ones I grew up and liked, and there's my old favorites. But recently I've been just trying to check out new shows. Maybe I'll find another Bebop. Maybe I'll find another Black Lagoon or something. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you guys? Okay, so Ryan, you don't have any of the. I'm changing so many topics here so quickly. My brain is like in 15 different places all the time. But so you don't have a PS4 or
I have a
like
PS4,
that?
I don't have a PS5. My PS4 is out of memory.
Have you played Ghost of Tsushima yet?
No, I want to though. That's the open world samurai game, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you played it?
I haven't yet. That's been on my list to kind of get, because this is one of those ones where it's like generally open world games I don't care for. I'm not a big fan of open world games, but you throw a samurai kind of theme to it, you might reel me back in. Because I just think that most open world games, I think my kind of issue is it's you kind of get too much of like the filler and not enough like content sometimes. You know, Grand Theft Auto was always fine at getting that content across in there and so on like that. You know, Assassin's Creed back in the day when I played it before they got overwhelmed, but always kind of had a good way of filling that in. But there's too many of them that sometimes it's like next thing you know let me just run across the map for the 1,000th time and get to this point and go back and forth there. So I'm always kind of like iffy. Like, I don't know, I personally prefer a solid linear game. But as I said, the samurai aspect and everything of that seems really cool, but now it's getting to the point where I'm like, well, I might as well just wait for that. Just get that. Once I get a PS5, I'll just get that version for it. You know.
I gotta say, like, there's a handful of games, and I think the open world games are, in terms of like RPG open world games, tend to be my favorite of all time because of the amount of exploration, the amount of content that's in there.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot stand where I put a game in and it's over in like 4 hours, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's it. See, I want to spend like 400 hours into a game.
See, I don't mind the 4 hour ones because then I can go play another game after that, and it's like, those are I always call like the short and sweet games. Like that's why I love survival horror games a lot, because survival horror games are give or take like 5 to like 15 hours to like go through those. So you can like burst through like like all the early Resident Evils like in a week if you want to, and it's like. It's but you can continuously play them over again too, and that's what I always kind of like. But I'm not saying that like RPGs are my other favorite, but I like turn-based traditional style ones. But
yeah, well, I was gonna say like Skyrim is one of my all-time favorite games. Knights of the Old Republic, probably my all-time favorite game. And I would put Ghost of Tsushima probably in the top 10 at this point.
Really?
Just because every single side mission really does feel like it's a part of that bigger conquest. Like it really does. It's not like go pick up some fruit for me.
Yeah,
you have to run and pick up some fruit and come back. No, it's like, oh, my daughter is gonna die if you don't go like help her right now. It's like, oh shit, okay, I better go help your daughter. Like every single mission has some sort of weight to it.
Yeah, it doesn't just have the filler, hey, here's this stuff to make our game longer than it needs to be. Like, because that's always sometimes the thing. It's like Red Dead Redemption 2 is a perfect example of like that game should have been about half as long if they would have just put the standard fast travel that they had in Red Dead Redemption 1. But by having to ride your horse every single place, it turns it into like twice as long a game. And it's not saying that the game's not a fun game. It's not still enjoyable. I played through the entire thing. But there is something to be said, be like, okay, now you're just sort of taking my time, like, that I could use to go to another game. Like
the filler in Ghost, the only filler that I can think of is like the collectibles, where it's like if you want to go and find the extra stuff around the land, you can do that, but it's not like
but you don't
the
have
missions
to.
Are filler.
Yeah, that's cool.
The actual missions are important and they serve story purposes, and it's the same thing with like Knights of the Old Republic. Like each mission feels like it adds to the lore and adds to the universe, and that's why. Oh my god! If I wish if I had like if Santa was real, and Ryan's like, oh shit, he's not. No, I'm just kidding. But if Santa was real,
go down the mall.
What do you say?
I saw him yesterday.
The Easter Bunny's not real either.
I saw him at the Thanksgiving
I sat on that
parade.
man's lap for no reason. That wasn't Santa.
You asshole. No. If I could really ask him for a single wish and it could come true, it would be please make sure the Knights of the Republic remake is like the best game of the year. Just because that's one of those games where you can't mess it up. I mean, yeah, I know you like. There's always going to be the original, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
But the original has really aged a lot in terms of like the look and the content. Like you can finish if you know what you're doing. You can finish that game in like 20 hours, and that's like doing everything. You could get through the main plot in like 10 hours.
Yeah.
And the original. The very first time I played it, it took me 45 hours. So I feel like it's one of those games where you cannot like take the cheap road. You have to take your time, even if they delay it 3 or 4 years for whatever reason. I don't care. Like it's got to be good. And just imagining like the updated graphics and the worlds and everything, it just would blow my mind just to see it up to date. And have you guys played the original?
Yeah, I have both the original ones on Xbox. And then
So you're pretty excited?
I played the original. I didn't beat it, but I found myself liking it. You know.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited for that one too, because I always enjoy those BioWare games, anyways. And Knights of the Republic is a pretty sweet. That's like one of those like solid Xbox original classic type games, both of them, first and second one, and so on. And I have kind of been wanting to play through those again, but then you see that remake coming out, like, well, I guess do I just wait for that then, or it's like one of those ones like because I haven't really played them since like the 2000s.
And it's like Dead Space too. Like, have you played Dead Space? And now that they're making a remake.
Well, yeah, I played all 4 of the Dead Space games. Like, love the living daylights out of those.
So it must be. So you're pretty pumped about the remake on that one too, I bet.
Yeah, I will. I'll totally get it because, like, this is why I liked about Dead Space. Is Dead Space to me when I first played, I'm like, oh shit, it's literally Resident Evil combined with Metroid. That's a totally cool concept.
Yeah, it's Resident Evil 4 mixed with Metroid, and then you throw in elements of like the movie Event Horizon, and you throw in elements of like Alien, and you throw in elements of like The Thing, and there's like it's like every horror sci-fi thing mixed into one game, and it's amazing.
You want to know what's the funny thing though? I want to say this real quick on Dead Space. You want to know what the very first Dead Space game I played was or got was?
What's that?
It was the Wii one where it was like the light gun shooting game. So that was the first one I got. That was my experience because I was in like a light gun mood. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to buy all these Wii ones like that. And so I played through that and I'm like, well, this game's badass. I'm like, I guess I'm going to go check out the other ones. But like once I saw everything, it was like I already knew what the creatures were coming up. So I guess it wasn't nearly as scary as it would have been if it was the first time you played Dead Space and you had no idea what you're getting into. It's like, oh, I already know what I'm getting into now.
Oh my God, that's great.
But that Wii was amazing too. Like people always kind of forget about that version.
Regarding video games and going back to Star Wars for a second, what do you guys think of that Star Wars Eclipse game? I was really excited about it till I heard like I didn't know what that studio was. Like, oh, they make those kind of games. So do you guys have any thoughts on that one?
What studio is it that makes those kind of games?
It's the guy. So Star Wars Eclipse is coming out, and it just this really cool, beautiful opening cinematic. Looks kind of artsy. It just looks like it takes place like before like High Republic era. I think James explained this to me on Octorok Talk. High Republic era. It looks like it takes place right before Phantom Menace, but apparently 500 years before that. It's like kind of like that Detroit Become Human / Heavy Rain kind of like dialogue
There's nothing wrong with those games, but I don't know what it is. Like when I play a video game, I kind of want to play a video game. If it kind of becomes more like an interactive movie, I really have to be in the mood for that. I'm not saying those aren't like good games, but like it's one of those ones. Like a lot of times when I'm sitting down to play a game, I'm here to play a game. If I was sitting down to watch a movie, I'd be watching a movie. But I always call those like those. They're literally the Sega CD style games, just like made modern.
Like I think there is room for a Star Wars thing where it is more dialogue based, but at the same time, like I don't know how cool that world looks or that game looks just from the cinematics he's shown. I'm like, I kind of want to go around there rather than just walk around and like choose A or B of say the nice thing or say the mean thing,
Yeah, well, it's like the Telltale games. It's like one of those ones because those games are kind of like that. It's like it's not that they can't be kind of fun here and there, but you really are just pretty much choosing options and clicking here and there, but it's not really like a game. Because I remember just when there was like that Jurassic Park one coming out, and it was like you just saw the screenshots, you're like, dude, this looks so amazing. It's gonna be totally, and then it's like, oh, it's a Telltale game, so it's not really a game. It's just a interactive movie. I mean, it's still cool, but it's not like another Dino Crisis of Jurassic Park elements.
Yeah. I think what's I apologize. I'm tired.
No, it's okay.
But I think what's cool is about Knights of the Old Republic is the way that it never sacrificed gameplay just to make it into a movie. And I think what's cool is it was the first time that a Star Wars game really felt like a real cinematic experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there had been other games that
Well, it was like Shadows and so on like that.
Yeah, that was like mixed into the lore, but it didn't really feel like a brand new, like you were watching a brand new Star Wars movie. You're like, okay, like it feels like a book had come to life. Like it's like the pages of a book had come into the gaming world or something, or a comic book was into the gaming world. And I think what's cool is that about KOTOR, as they say, is that it really did feel like you were experiencing some new movie trilogy or something that had come out, but you have to play it.
Well, and that's also, we've talked about it before, but like that's such like the golden era of like Star Wars video games, like pretty much from
early 2000s,
yeah, late 90s to about mid 2000s. It's just like there's, I mean, there might be a couple ones that are just okay, but like we got so many Star Wars games, and they're so much fun, just all the different ones, just even from the movie tie-in ones to the ones that were doing their own original stories to the ones that kind of went around it and so on like that. Like it was such a great era to be like a Star Wars fan and to have all these games that like you would have at your disposal. And it's just kind of a bummer that there's just not very many of them. Like, I mean, there's Star Wars games coming out. I'm not saying that these new ones haven't been kind of fun too, but like they just don't come out like, I mean, I guess nowadays you can't just release ridiculously like that, but it was kind of just nice to like, hey, if you didn't like this next Star Wars game, that's okay. 3 months from now, another one's coming out.
Now, okay, again, I have another topic change for a second. Did you guys see? Well, it's not. Okay, anyway, Star Wars related. Did you guys see the trailer that came out for the hotel that you can stay at?
No, I didn't. I
There's a Star Wars hotel?
I heard about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I overheard about this, but I don't think I saw the actual trailer. Is this trailer going? I remember seeing like stills and people talking about what it can be, but I don't. How old is this trailer?
Like a couple days ago.
No, I didn't see that one.
It was okay. It was so bad that Disney actually removed it.
How bad can a hotel be?
I gotta see I gotta see a re-upload of this now. I really want to know when Disney.
Angry Joe did a reaction of it. You can watch his. It's
when
amazing.
Mickey's like, "Get this shit out of here! Get the fuck out!" You know, when he's doing that, you know it's got to be some good shit.
Well, okay, how do you mess up on a hotel? Let's just be honest. Like, I mean, come on.
So, it's like, it seems there's little elements here and there that seem cool. Like you can actually send the ship that you're going from. I guess you start off on a ship that goes to the hotel. Like you're on you're like on a transport that takes you to the hotel. Like that's how you start your time there. And I guess it's like you get to make the ship go to hyperspace to get there, and I think that's kind of cool. I think that's what I saw in that trailer. And then when you get there, they had I guess an actor from the Goldbergs was the one like being walked around like by the hostess. And he walked off into this little area, and she's like, "Oh, it's gonna be so great. You can do lightsaber training. You can do this, and you can do that." And it's like, okay. And then he walks off into this room, and it's a bar, and everyone's just kind of staring at the singer. And then this like Twi'lek lady comes out, and she just sings like this really cringy song, and everyone's just like, "Oh wow, this is great. She sounds so cool." And it's really cringy, and it's like
a Star Wars gibberish, like kind of like that kind of shit, or
no? I think she's singing in English, but it's like. So instead of making like a feeling like you're living the movies, like maybe Darth Vader's walking around, and maybe like they reenact battle scenes like in the hotel or something, or you feel like, maybe the Empire arrives at the hotel, and it's like maybe like one of those like murder mystery dinners you go to.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like that where you have to like escape from the hotel, or like or do some sort of scavenger hunt, or I don't know, just make it more like instead of bringing the movies to you, instead it's like you're just watching lounge singers, and it's like okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was like the lounge singer from like the episode 6 like special edition version.
Oh, the fucking puppet, the fucking bad CG, the circle with like wavy like the arms and legs.
Yeah,
I mean, that would work. I feel like that'd at least be something, but.
Oh my god.
Just have the da 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 on repeat whenever you go into the lounge room.
Employees about ready to kill themselves.
Man, I can actually. I can turn the camera around and show you.
Oh, it's okay. We'll look at it a little later. We'll look at it. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be fucking. I'm sure it's cringe as fuck. I'd love to see this just because. Here's the thing, even about. I mean, because I'll be honest. I don't hate Disney Star Wars because I really liked Rogue One and I even liked Force Awakens, and I didn't hate. I mean, I didn't love. I just liked Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Just liked them. Didn't love them. I should love them. And the thing is, though, like, it is very much. It feels like a bunch of people fighting for the stick, trying to control this thing. And what's even more interesting is watching Disney try to self-correct or course-correct and pretend like nothing's happened. So, like, that's almost kind of the funnier thing about it. Like, oh yeah, no, Finn and Rey and Poe, they're all still out there. It's just we're gonna be focusing on other aspects of the galaxy far, far away now. Like, oh, that's a very nice way you said it, you know.
Well,
so
I'll say this: have you seen the price tag for staying there for 2 nights?
No.
I'm sure it's ridiculous.
$6,000.
Jesus.
Get fucked.
Yeah, for $6,000, I better be able to lay next to fucking Luke Skywalker naked.
Yeah.
So I'm reading the comments.
Bring the sister in too. Why not? Yeah.
I'm
No,
reading
no,
the
no,
comments.
Yeah, Harrison Ford better be there to bring my fucking towels.
I'm bringing. I know, right? I'm seeing the comments here on the video. I won't spoil anything. But this guy says, "I've never been more excited and thrilled about not booking a trip on a Star Wars cruiser." And then Emperor Palpatine, "I died for this." It's the experience that no one wanted for the price that no one can afford.
I like they're just dropping. I know that it's not as bad as it was at the beginning, but I love how they're just dropping. And you can go for $6,000 during pandemic time. Just like, yeah, that's what people are really saving up for.
Yeah,
right
for
now.
$6,000, I better get the run of the whole hotel. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus.
I just got done going to Disneyland last month, and of course, my main reason for going, like, of course, I went because my son was his first time there, but I wanted to spend the entire day at Galaxy's Edge. Have you guys been to it?
Not yet.
No,
I've been
not
Disneyland
yet.
in a long time. A long time.
Okay, so it was awesome. I love the blue milk. It was delicious. I did the build your own lightsaber. I bought all the trinkets. I bought the Sith holocron and the Jedi holocron and all that. But the one thing that kept taking me out of it, I know it's not their fault, but it's like, here I am in the Star Wars world, and I feel like I'm on a real planet in Star Wars, and then everybody's wearing their face masks, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, it takes you out of the moment, you know.
It does.
If it was at least like some kind of weird like Star Wars respirator thing.
See,
that would've been cool.
And it's funny how that's sort of how it was, because I mean, me and Dunnigan were at Universal Studios only a year ago, and that felt like that was more of a hardcore time period, and nobody cared down there. It was just like, well, if you feel like wearing a mask, I mean, you can, but whatever. Or shit, it wasn't that long ago. It was summertime almost. I remember because it was hot as balls out there, and yeah, it's just like whatever, fuck it. You want to get on the Jurassic Park ride? Sit with everybody else. I don't know where they're from. They're from, guess what? Everywhere around the world. But you want to go on the new Jurassic Park ride? Well, yeah, I want to go on the new Jurassic Park. Then shut the fuck up and hold on. That's okay.
That was the video of John Hammond at the beginning as you get on. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, he recorded that before COVID, and it's already.
He had the foresight.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it'd be worse if it was like a CG John Hammond, like how they're doing like these new CG dead people.
Yeah, like Richard Attenborough comes back from the grave.
Fun fact, because we mentioned the CG dead people thing, because that was popping up a lot more in Star Wars. There, for a minute, something Lucas was toying around with was doing some kind of weird, he didn't have enough. He had a premise, but he couldn't think of a good enough plot for it. It was basically meant to be like heaven, where James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, Elvis, just a lot of these icons were, and it's just kind of like, see, isn't this an amazing time? Isn't this an important time? Look how great, this very like, you know, like 40s and 50s, like 50s Hollywood nostalgia, but at the same time it was just kind of like, well, what's the plot? I'm like, well, I haven't figured that shit out. But
it was probably supposed to be like American Graffiti 3, and like Ron Howard's character just had this weird lucid dream at some point. It's like, you know, George is like, well, you know, I only produced the second one, but I'm coming back for the third one.
I never even seen American Graffiti 2.
And yeah,
see me neither. Doesn't it take place in Vietnam?
Maybe it does.
Really?
I think it does. Like a big part of it takes place in Vietnam.
Here's the thing about American Graffiti, and I know we're just abruptly changing here, but
let's talk about Vietnam for a while. No,
it's all George topics.
Well, that's true. The thing about that movie is I guess it was the point of the movie, because it's kind of like, it starts off and you're just like, you know, it's a fun movie. We're just watching all these kids in Modesto just trying like to fight boredom and, you know, just have fun, you know, drag racing, this and that. And it's pretty lighthearted. And there's a few like heavy scenes, but it's all mostly lighthearted. Then you get to the very end, like, so-and-so went on to like start a construction business. He also married this lady. This guy died in a car crash. This guy got raped and murdered in Vietnam.
Yeah, it just starts going real dark real fast there at the end.
Can you imagine if like The Sandlot ended like that? 'Cause it does kind of end like that, where it has like, oh, he went off to do this and he went off to do this, but it's like, I guess there is the kid with the glasses. It says like he went off to like he joined the hippie movement. No one ever saw him again. It's like, oh my god, did he die?
Yeah, what happened there? Yeah, he was sitting
He's
on a
still
creepy
in
crawl.
that basement. Whose basement? No one knows.
Yeah.
That's like the Dewey Cox movie. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time, but that's a good one.
It ends on like the freeze frame of him like at his final concert, and it says like 5 minutes later he dropped dead. And it shows like the screenshots of him being like, oh, like is like having his heart attack or whatever. It's like, oh, jeez.
No, that was always a fun one. But this actually goes back to Star Wars real quick, and kind of like, you know, like I think the Disney thing, once again, this goes to like almost our earlier topic of like, when it was just George's, and that's why I always feel like when it's just George's vision, once again, singular vision, it's his thing and so on, I feel like, even if it depends, you know, if people don't like it or whatever, that's not your problem. It's this guy's story and so on like that. But I felt like once George kind of like just relinquished it, too many people kind of go in and they got too many like different ideas of like how they see Star Wars in their eyes and so on like that. I mean, you notice it with like when it comes to even like other shows, like examples, like if you watch like a comedy show and you see the writers that are on it like the first season, the second season, and then all of a sudden they just start getting these outside writers come in, and now the characters almost feel a little bit uncanny and not exactly how they're supposed to be. It's still there, but there's something slightly off, and I feel like that's sort of kind of what happens like once it, you know, leaves almost like the main guy's control. Not saying that somebody can't carry stuff on, but sometimes you get to that point where it's like certain people just, it's almost like they're missing like that 10% that makes it feel like it's on track.
Well, there's even like the sequel trilogy, for instance. Like, at the end of the day, did I find it enjoyable? Yeah, I found it enjoyable, but at the same time, it made me feel like, well, what was really the point in the end? Because, it starts off, and the Empire is already back in power for some reason, after we're led to believe they're meant to lose at the end of the original trilogy.
It's the First Order.
Yeah.
Oh, First Order, whatever.
It's the First Order. Shh.
Yeah, well, it's whatever it is, you know. It's just one of those things, like, they're there, and they suddenly, it's like, so what the fuck did the rebels do? What did the Alliance do? Why doesn't the Alliance actually have a... Why is the Alliance the Resistance or whatever the fuck?
And why are they being led by a 75-year-old
It's because we can't have
woman?
rebels, because rebels are associated with Confederates.
Yeah, well, it's also like one of those things where you think about that and like, God, there's an example I was going to make with that. It just feels kind of like you hear what George Lucas wanted to do, and maybe there was some things like they would have wanted to iron out, you know, after the prequels or whatever, but at the same time, you hear like, well, his idea, among many of the ideas he said he has, but then, you know, says different things at different times. One idea was the sequel trilogy, Darth Maul was going to be like basically in place of the Emperor, and he was going to be like leader of like a crime syndicate, and the Empire was still there, but it had a much more smaller territory, and it was more about...
Isn't that kind of like what the comics are like? Isn't the expanded universe stuff after Episode 6? There's a whole subplot about like the
Darth.
red something, like taking over the universe.
The Black Sun or something.
Yeah, something like that.
There's different. Here's the thing. There's like different. I want to say that like a bunch of those guys, who made Clone Wars and other stuff, talked to George Lucas and implemented these things into the show, into like the Clone Wars and Rebels and all that kind of stuff. But those were some of his ideas for a minute, and I don't know if that's before or after he sold it to Disney, before they brought Darth Maul back or any of that. But those are some of the ideas he had, and my God, that sounds so much better than like what happened. You know,
and
it was gonna
Kylo
be,
Ren. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was going to be the whole thing where here's Luke and Leia training the new people, but at the same time, at least, I don't know, more presence there, and it's like easy to win a war. It's harder to keep a government going.
We got Mary Poppins, Princess Leia. So I mean, how can you complain?
Yeah, who? Oh, what's her? Yeah, Mary Poppins, Princess Leia. So
yeah.
Right, when she's floating around in space, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, okay, I have a very unpopular opinion, and I want to see if you guys would probably disagree with this. I didn't like the finale of Mandalorian season 2.
I really liked that one. I mean, I know it was very fan servicey, but
that's why it was way too fan servicey for me. And I'm like, really, we had to go back to Luke? Oh.
I guess in my mind, and maybe Spencer could shed his opinion in a second, but I guess my mind is like, well, from common, I mean, I guess if you look in a lot of the expanded universe stuff, you can cherry pick this character or that character, but from common knowledge, like, who else was really a Jedi that's really well known at that point? Who else could have been the Grogu or whatever was talking to? So I get the criticism, but it didn't bother me. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's one of those ones, I think it works because it is selling to a broader audience, you know? So you gotta, like, that impact's gonna be a lot more bigger for everybody Star Wars fans, but instead of just like, you know, the hardcore ones. I mean, if you put like Mara Jade came in there or something like that, I'd be like, oh fuck, we're going deep here now. But like, you know, 90% of people would be like, who the fuck is that? Shit, probably 95% of the people would be like, who the hell is that? You know, it's like there's gonna be,
just come up with a new character. I don't know, something like.
Yeah, well, if it was a new character, it wouldn't have the impact. I think that's the thing, is it had to be somebody of, you know, olden days. But you know, I still think it kind of does work, but, you know, yeah, it's one of those ones, or shit, like, you know, it'd be, throw, like, you know, even, like, Mace Windu or something in there, like, you know what I mean? Like,
that comes in with a robotic arm.
Yeah.
I just feel like because Star Wars is, as Red Letter Media famously says, creatively bankrupt, I feel like they're always having to go back to the legacy characters. Mm-hmm. And, like, I'm going to say it, and again, I have the unpopular opinion that every episode that heavily featured Boba Fett, I was just bored out of my mind. I'm like, okay, fast forward. I don't care. Because it's like, I don't care about Boba Fett. Like, we don't know anything about him. Why should I care about him? Like, he's just a guy who was like Vader's right-hand man for a few minutes. Mm-hmm. Like, but everyone else is like, Boba Fett, oh my God. Because he's like a marketed character on all the toys and everything. But he doesn't have like this bigger role to play in the actual universe. It's just because we know him that he's being featured so much.
Well, and the fact his dad was, you know, the sperm donor for all those clones.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about like original trilogy mindset, not the prequel trilogy mindset, but the original trilogy mindset.
But even going, I get what you're saying there, because that was like when they first showed him, like, well, that's either going to be some clone trooper from the Clone Wars cartoon, which I didn't watch, or it's Boba Fett, you know, first thing. And I was almost banking it was going to be somebody else for a minute. And then when it ends up being Boba Fett, because what you just said, I kind of agree with you for like Boba Fett for a while. Because for a while, Boba Fett was this character that was a badass and all the expanded universe stuff, but went out like a bitch in the movies. And it's one of those things, even screams, he does the Wilheimer scream when he goes down. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where for a long time, people are like, Boba Fett's the greatest bounty hunter ever. Like, well, I think Spec Spiegel can kick his ass, but that's just me. But then at the same time, it's one of those things, like, I didn't hate the character, but I was just tired of people shoving it in my face all the time, saying, like, oh, in this one book, like, Darth Vader and Boba Fett, like Boba Fett was hired to kill Darth Vader, but it ends in a draw. So then Darth Vader keeps it in mind. That's why he hired him to go after Han Solo in this one book. Like, why did he get smacked with a fucking stick into, like, a fucking pussy and like, out in the desert, you know? But,
yeah, we all have our bad days.
Yeah, we all have our bad days. But then at the same time, I was watching this, and suddenly it's just like, okay, you're at least showing me a reason why he's a badass, and you're at least I know that it's retroactive, but at least they're showing him doing shit. You're seeing he can do things rather than just standing there and giving like Princess Leia like a quick little nod, or watching him run down a hallway with it like firing at Luke once or twice. Like
I know, but it does feel like a little tad unbelievable that this like 60-year-old dude can like take out all these stormtroopers all by himself without breaking a sweat. It's like and again with this new Boba Fett show, I just don't care. I really don't care, because I don't have any context prior to The Mandalorian for me being invested in this character. Like, he's not an interesting enough character to carry his own show, I guess.
I'm gonna give it a shot. We'll see what happens. I mean, if anything, it's a space western. I always like space westerns, so
I'm just worried they're gonna make it exactly like the Mandalorian character, where it's like the cool silent guy, who's like you read all of his emotions off of like the people around him, because he's gonna have his helmet on all the time.
Mm-hmm. I hope he's a lot more. I hope he's just like a little bit more ruthless, because there is that like stinger they have at the end of Mandalorian where he shoots the Twilight guy that was Jabba's right hand man, and just like throws his ass off the chair. Like, this looks like a comfy seat, you know.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to. I mean, the only downfall is Disney's always kind of softens the edges, but it would be kind of cool to see, in a sense, almost like, maybe not like an anti-hero, but just have a character that's like, oh shit, he's actually not a good guy whatsoever. I mean, I know that they're going to make the Boba Fett one. They're going to make him have all the good guy kind of qualities, even if he's not like perfect. But it'd be nice to see a guy that's like, oh shit, no, he's just a terrible person going around just doing bounty hunter shit and so on. But you know, like, that's just how it is. But I have a feeling that there's no way that's going to happen. You're not going to get almost like,
you're basically gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, you're not going to get a character that is kind of a little bit more brutal and so on like that. It's still kind of going to be, I think it'll still be interesting. I mean, I've always liked Boba Fett. I'm not saying he's like my favorite character or anything like that, but he's a cool looking character. I think that's what has always kind of kept him there. It's like, I think it's like the mystery of like, what we want to see more of this guy. And yeah, granted, you get it in like the books, you get it in some of the video games and so on like that, but it's not. I think the people that watch the movies, you know, and the movies alone, they never played the video games, they never read the books, they never read the comics, you know, they don't have any of that, you know, back lore. He's still the mysterious character that they've always wanted to know more about.
Yeah, George. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like the only thing they could really do with him is make him like a Mad Max character, where he's like, you know, the stereotypical anti-hero, where like, you like him because he doesn't follow any sort of justice, you know, like he's not like the Mandalorian where he has these set of rules. He just does his own thing, and I feel like maybe if they make him the anti-Mandalorian, or you know, that could be interesting. Where it's like, oh, please save me. It's like, nah.
Like he doesn't care. There's no money in it. It's not going to stop him. But I have a hard time. Disney's going to have that thing where it's like, well, those aren't good morals or values for people to have, so we don't want a character like that being our main character.
I'm probably more looking forward to the Kenobi show than I am Boba Fett. I'm looking forward to Boba Fett, but Kenobi is one I'm a little bit more excited for.
Okay, see, again, I'm so in the opposite of like the general fan base. I feel like I love the stuff like again, like my favorite Star Wars story is Knights of the Republic, because it has nothing to do with the movies or the books or anything like that. I love all the stuff that I'm just repeating myself, sorry.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, I love that stuff that has nothing to do with the movies. Like, just have the movies should be their own story, and then come up with a new story, then come up with a new story, then come up with a new story, new characters. But I feel like every story they tell always has to revolve around the same 5 or 6 characters. Like I feel like they always have to keep doing that.
No,
I really wish I could.
I was just gonna say, I know what you mean there, because it's like the problem that I sort of have even with like 7, 8, and 9 is they do that thing where it feels like everything happens on like a cul-de-sac. You're in space, but everything could have happened between about like 8 different neighbors.
Yeah,
you know?
It's a galaxy. Do you have any idea how big a galaxy is? Why can't we like have other stories? Other characters.
Yeah, well, it's just the whole point of like when they made Rey like, oh, literally she's related to all this stuff. She's the Emperor's daughter. When I saw that, I was like, that's such like I always think that's the one that somebody thinks that they're really creative in storytelling, and it's like, no, you're not. That's such a cop out kind of like. I like the idea that at the very end she goes through all this stuff, and it's like, no, you're literally just an orphan that just got dropped off here. Nobody cares about you.
That was like the one interesting thing that happened from Last Jedi was, besides I liked that, and I liked Luke like cutting himself off from the Force. That was like the 2 things that were really like could have been, if they expanded upon it, like been really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I know right now I probably sound like a Disney Star Wars shill. Like, I can't wait for Boba Fett, and I can't wait for Kenobi, and I can't wait for the Porgs cartoon either. But it's one of those things where I hope they don't make a Porgs cartoon. I hope that, who knows?
I wouldn't put it past them.
I wouldn't put it past them either. That said, though, it's just I guess I like Kenobi enough, and I'm very easy. I like westerns, and if you're doing like a dude, kind of like a lot like a Ronin-esque warrior wandering the desert, feeling disgraced, like questioning where'd you go wrong, then I'm just kind of like, all right. I'm kind of, because Kenobi, we never really got a chance to see him flawed. Maybe we got to see him make a few mistakes in the prequels, but we never really saw him as like a flawed person that was questioned. I mean, maybe he'd make a smart ass remark to Qui-Gon Jinn or something, but beyond that, he was always like, he always knew what he was doing. So seeing him at a time when he's lost, and at the same time probably dealing with crime lords and all that kind of shit too, I think there's opportunity for some interesting stories there. Boba Fett looks cool, looks interesting, looks entertaining. That's all it looks, though. I'm not expecting to walk away like being like, oh my god, the character development, but I see what you mean, though. I think one of the reasons why I liked Rogue One so much, despite a couple of cameos, is it was just this thing somewhat separate from everything. Yeah, it kind of leads into the other movies, but it is about ultimately this whole cast of characters, and everyone's going to die by the end. Yeah. And that, I think, is just kind of I think that was one of the more ballsier movies they made. And I kind of would like to see more standalone Star Wars movies that don't have to do with Luke or Leia or Han Solo or any other number of characters.
Yeah. I mean, I sound like a broken record when I keep bringing up like Red Letter Media, just because their commentary is so, like, when you actually listen to what they're saying, you're like, oh my god, I never saw it that way. Like, that's genius. Like, you have to watch their intro to Rogue One, the Rogue One review they did. It's amazing. They're like, holy shit, it's Darth Vader with his lightsaber, and he's gonna use the Force. Like, do you remember ATSTs? ATSTs, yay! And so it's like, it's like, AT-AT walkers, I'm gonna come. It's like, so that's kind of what, like, they make fun of Star Wars fans for just basically being like, I remember who that is. Do you remember Boba Fett? I remember Boba Fett. Do you remember Obi-Wan Kenobi and the You'll Be Dead guy? Oh my god. So it's like, basically they're just making fun of the fans for being like, their nostalgia is what keeps bringing them back to being like being apologists, I guess, for like the lazy writing. And I feel like that's, go ahead.
I feel like there's more than that going on in that movie. There is fan service in it, but I feel like there's more than that going on. But I cut you off, Spencer. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, it's like, and sometimes at the same time, there's nothing wrong with certain points like that too, because it's like, who doesn't want to see more AT-ATs, and who doesn't want to see more like X-wing battles and so on like that? Because granted, once again, they exist in so many other things, but you actually, if you kind of sum up the movies, you don't get tons of those kind of things. And I think it is one of those ones, if they can kind of just put out If they could just, it's like there's nothing wrong putting out a copious amount of movies and so on, just like in a row. Like I kind of like that when they had that idea where like, oh shit, we're gonna have like 2 movies a year almost. I'm like, sure, fine, go with that. You know what I mean? Like I got the Regal Unlimited pass. I'm ready for this. You know, but like I kind of like the idea when it was like, okay, we're gonna have our continual story, but then we're gonna have these just random ass stories that don't have anything with each other, and that kind of went away real quick. And it's like I would like to see more of that kind of stuff in there and so on. And you know, at the same time, no matter what, there's like, I mean, think about it like when it comes to so many things. Like there is always that nostalgia factor, like you know, like that kind of catches you. I mean, it's like the Knights of the Old Republic remake. I mean, like that sinks right into that right there, saying like, boom, hey, this is what you love most. Come on back for like the shined up, polished version. You know, it's kind of like,
yeah,
it's like when the Mass Effect trilogy or something came out. It's like, yeah, I already own these games, but god damn it, I'm gonna buy them again and get the little bit more polished up versions. Cause why not?
I would agree with you for about like 90%. Because I do sound like a little bit of a hypocrite if I'm like, oh, you guys sound like you guys are shills for the nostalgia bait and all that, but it's like at the same time here I am like excited for a remake. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to be a hypocrite.
I guess it's also
time,
good. Sorry,
I was just gonna say like I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, but it's just like KOTOR to me does need a remake only because they had like the beginnings of like it's a legendary game, but like it was limited to its technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of today's technology, if they do it right, it could become, they could expand it to an extra 400 or 500 hours of gameplay and story and make it even, expand upon it. But I feel like, I don't know, when they keep rehashing, X-Wings and TIE Fighters, and like how many times are we going to see stories with X-Wings and TIE Fighters and AT-ATs? Like, are people ever going to get tired of it where they're like, guys, like, we're done with those things. Can we please do something else, like outside of the Empire, prequel era stuff?
Yeah, no. There's all kinds of stuff you can kind of go into, but well, it's like sometimes too. It's like sometimes it'll get kind of like things get kind of more summed up to like the simpler stuff than kind of like And once again, going back to like the early 2000s, I felt like that's when you got a lot more. When you got games like Rogue Squadron and so on like that, yeah, you had X-Wings and TIE Fighters and so on like that, but you also got V-Wings, you also got B-Wings, you got all kinds of these other ships that normally you don't see the light of day, and then as kind of games go on, those extra ships sort of disappear.
Well, also going back to what you said, Chris, about KOTOR, like you said, like you said, like, oh, it might sound kind of like a hypocrite for like KOTOR, but at the same time, KOTOR is something we only got a little bit of. Where something like X-Wings, like X-Wings, Luke, Leia, Darth Vader, that's something we've gotten a lot of by this point. So I can get what you mean with like, here's a small little section of a galaxy in a very particular time period. We only saw just a little bit of it. We saw 2 games for it and maybe like a mobile game or some bullshit. But beyond that, this is what it was. So now we'd like to kind of come back to this.
Yeah, it's an era that has only barely been covered by like some comics and some like a couple of books in a game, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Whereas like we've gotten 40 years of 40 years of 40 years of time frame. So it's like, can we like, because this universe is so big and because it's so varied, like that's why I really liked The Mandalorian that first season, is because it takes place after Return of the Jedi, but it has almost nothing to do with that plot at all. Mm-hmm. It just happens to take place in that world, and so it's like if you see an X-Wing once in a while, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool, but it doesn't bring the plot down because it's just the backdrop of what's happening.
Aside from a few small things, I think Mandalorian found that balance pretty right, because you're right. You're like, okay, it makes sense to further be an X-Wing there. Makes sense for there to be like some stormtroopers laying around, but it answered interesting questions like, well, if the Empire falls, what are stormtroopers doing? Well, they're probably just becoming freelance, and they're probably just becoming bandits almost, so it just brought in interesting aspects like that. And there's even like, it's just some of the imagery you weren't used to seeing in Star Wars, where they had a bunch of like stormtrooper helmets impaled on like a bunch of... What the shit is that?
Well, you hear random stuff?
What?
You're hearing random stuff?
Yeah, no, maybe that was my microphone. I don't know. No, there is like there was like shit, what was I saying? There was like enough things there, like the stormtrooper helmets impaled on like the spikes, like that was shit you never really saw like in Star Wars that much, and it just kind of like expanding upon things like that and going like even like I know this is season 2, but even like when they go to like the that water planet with all like the docks and bays, like, oh well, this is where you see a lot of the, I don't know what they're called, but those squid looking things, and then the Admiral Akbar aliens.
Sequesh,
So-
I think they're called.
yeah, it's like, oh, it makes sense those guys would be here, and you kind of see a little bit with their world and how
Yeah,
their
but it's like
society works.
all that. Think about the difference like between Star Wars and Star Trek. Like Star Wars, all of the vehicles, all of the planets, all of the races and the weapons and all of that. That's just again the backdrop for the story, and that's where it should stay. Like if you want to get like the in-depth, detailed technological stuff of like how does the ship work, how does a lightsaber work, like all that stuff, like that's where like Star Trek would come into play, where it's like I want all that really nerdy, detailed information. But it's like Star Wars is always meant to be like story first, world second, I guess.
Well,
And so yeah.
Yeah, well, and I feel the books is where that fills in that kind of like void of all that stuff. Stuff that I always wish you would see more, like, and this goes into like both like, you know, the video games and movies, is I always feel like we always get like only a one-sided view of the Empire, because I always feel like if you probably live on an Empire-controlled planet, life is probably awesome. You know what I mean? Like, if you, as long as you're not in the far outskirts, it's like everything's probably taken care for you. You're probably living in like the Mecca of the future and so on like that. But we always just see that the Empire is bad. But it's like, let's be honest. Like,
Well,
if you're deep in the
Outer Rim.
Empire, like, I bet you it's not as bad as like the rebels are making out to be. Let's be the rebels are just, they're just pissed because they're on the outer side of it. But like, if you're probably deep in the Empire, you're like, this is great. Those fucking rebels are ruining everything for us. You know what I mean?
Now,
God
I'll
forbid
say-
they take away my, like, you know, comfy space life.
I'll say you're right to an extent, but the original purpose of Star Wars was basically World War II in space.
Oh yeah,
Like-
I mean that's what they're going with. But
It was Allies versus Nazis.
Axis,
That's
yeah.
basically what it was. And so that's where like the idea of the character of Finn was cool and different, where it's like, oh, a defector stormtrooper who was like, oh shit, maybe what we're doing is bad. But then they ruined it by like 2 movies later, he's like going, woo, like blowing up his own people. So it's like, you know, it like they ruined what they had in terms of like subverting your expectations there.
well,
So
it's like even
Well,
in like Battlefront 2.
They also could have made him. Oh, good.
I was just saying, Battlefront 2, like in the campaign mode, I remember when it first starts off, I'm like, oh shit, you're playing as like the Empire in there? I'm like, that's fucking badass and so on like that. But the only downfall is they do the thing, even though that campaign's still really fun, they do the thing where like one thing happens and then the characters are all like, fuck the Empire then, let's join the rebels. It's like, I thought it would have been such a more ballsier one to stick with. No, you stuck with the Empire till the day you fucking die. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because you know, it's like it just feels like we never get to see like the 360-degree view. It's always you're getting the propaganda of the rebels, and you never get to see literally like maybe there is some interesting things the Empire's doing that we just don't get to know about because the rebels are like, you know, making sure we don't hear about it. Now, granted, if you're on the Outer Rims, we all know what that looks like, so that's not good. That's like being in like the colonies of the Soviet Union. Of course, it's not going to be great there, but if you're in Moscow, it might be a different story.
Well, it's also going to the thing what you said about Finn. It's the idea of like him being like, they mention it lightly, and I think Rise of Skywalker, where they says like, oh yeah, you inspired other people, other stormtroopers to leave or something. I think they lightly say that once or twice, but they don't really do anything with it. And it's not like it's like, I think there's so much more he could have done with that concept, but he's just a guy who escaped, and then they never kind of really go back to it with anything meaningful. So
they ruined his arc by, like I said, like having him like
Be a
really
janitor.
enjoy killing his best friends.
yeah,
So
relentlessly.
Well,
Yeah.
he was literally just a pissed off janitor, is what he was. I don't think any of those guys were his friends. Let's be honest.
He's just mopping the halls like, one day I'm gonna blow this motherfucker up. What'd you say? F19? Nothing. Just
but
cleaning.
like also like even in the first movie where his character is introduced, they kind of ruin his character. Where it's like, I think if they had made him the defector and he's a very serious person who's trying to like really drive home to people like his experience, and like he's a very serious guy and he does not mess around. But like that would have been perfect. Like have him be the grounding that keeps the situation dire to the characters, where it's like every time they question like, should I be doing this? They go to Finn and he's like, yeah, like the things that I've seen you wouldn't believe. You have to do this. But instead, here they am, 2 scenes later, he's going like, hey, Phasma, I'm in charge. I'm in charge now. And he becomes like this goofy cornball character. And it's like, oh, well, all right, never mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. But, I get what you're saying there. And I mean, like I said, I'm just repeating myself now. I liked the new trilogy. Didn't love it. Just liked it. I really liked Rogue One. So just I would like more original stories like that, even though that's connected to the original trilogy. But still. I don't know about you guys, but I gotta get going here pretty soon. But
okay.
I don't know if you guys want to keep talking or.
No, I'm running on fumes. I do definitely want to do another one of these. It's fun.
Yeah, we have to go on yours. You have to get you back on Octorok Talk and back on here. Maybe I can pop on. We can pop on Dragon Ball and Chain at some point. Yeah.
But
I gotta get back into Dragon Ball and Chain. I haven't done it since like March.
So. Oh, that's a good while.
Yeah. Well, because it's just been absolutely crazy year. We moved and we were getting ready for a kid, and then it's just like it was nuts. So yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll have to do it again. Fun times in store and so on like that. Go from there. But till then, you got any shout outs you need to do? I know you of course mentioned Dragon Ball and Chain, but any other shout outs you want to throw out there?
No, I'm good.
Perfect. Well, I know where that is. You can always find all our stuff at oldmanorange.com. We got more podcasts, comic books like Pizza Boys, old animations, and all that fun stuff. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan, and our special guest,
Chris Harvey from Dragon Ball and Chain.
Sweet. Well, we'll see you guys some other time.
Later, folks.